Hey guys, it's Michelle, and today I want to talk about books that I have discovered are coming out in 2015 that I am pretty excited about. And this is just me doing research and being a big old nerd, but who better to share books I'm excited about with than the BookTube community? It makes perfect sense, right? First up in March is The Winter's Curse, and this is a second book in, I believe it's a trilogy by Marie Rutkoski. And I truly adored the first book and was really surprised at how good it was. It was not originally a book that I had on my TBR, but I'd heard some good things, and then it dropped to a very nice price on Book Outlet, so I ended up getting the physical book, and I loved it. It follows Kestrel. She's a teenage girl. I believe she's 19. I think she's 19. And her father is a general. Her mother has passed away when she was really young, so she's basically been raised by her dad and a sort of nanny person. And women in her world have two choices. They can go into the military, which she's a brilliant strategist, they already know, and that's what her father would love for her to do. Or they can get married. And she has a prospect for getting married, but he's a friend, and she's not like crazy about him. She likes him. Anyway. So she ends up buying a slave at an auction, and so forbidden love comes into the story, and that adds a whole new layer of political intrigue and politicking going on. And I was just blown away by how interesting the politics ended up being. She can fight a little bit, but she knows she's not the best at combat, and so she chooses to try to strategize her way out of situations instead of fight her way out. I thought it was fabulous. And the ending, I was just so surprised, and I can't wait to get my hands on book 2 on March 3rd. Then on March 17th is a book by an author I've never really heard anything about. I don't know if she's ever written anything before. The book is called Everything That Makes You, and the author is Mariah McStay. And the reason this book caught my attention is it's basically two versions of the same character with different viewpoints. It's kind of a what if. Essentially, your main character is named Fiona, and she was in an accident when she was younger, and it left half of her face scarred, which of course has really impacted her life. But the other sections of the story, I think, are told from the perspective of Fee, who is kind of her what if there hadn't been an accident alter ego. So I'm not quite sure how that'll all play out, but that has me kind of interested in how the author's going to handle that, the whole what if thing. So interested in getting my hands on that one. On March 24th is a book called Liars Incorporated by Paula Stokes. Again, this is an author I'm not familiar with, but the premise of this book is what caught my attention. There's a young man named Max, and he's basically bored in high school, and he starts up a business to make money off of his fellow classmates. And the way he does this is by selling lies. Essentially, didn't get an assignment in and need some kind of cover story. Well, Max will help you fabricate one for a price. Did you ditch school one day? Need a cover story for that? He can help out with that. Well, one of the people who helps him out in his business is his buddy Preston. And Preston meets this girl online, and he wants a cover story to go meet her in real life. Well, of course, Max is happy to give him a cover story, but Preston never returns, and his body is found, and he has been murdered. And there's evidence pointing the crime back at Max. And so he's got to figure out how to clear his name and what is going on here. So sounds kind of interesting. Also on March 24th is Half Wild by Sally Green. This is the second book in a trilogy, I believe it's going to be. And the first book is Half Bad. Now when it came out, it was pretty hyped up, and I was kind of scared of it because of all the hype. A lot of people who first read it didn't care for it, so I was worried that I wouldn't care for it, but I got a really good deal on it on my Kindle. It follows Nathan, and he is the youngest son of his mother, who is a white witch. Now, the witches have two factions, white and black. He's been raised with the white witches and always been told that the white witches are good and black witches are evil. Now, they do fight each other quite a bit. There's kind of a skirmish, underlying hatred of each other. It's never really explained why or how that began. But it turns out that Nathan has a different father than his brothers and sisters, and his father is a black witch. And that is extremely rare. And it's not just any black witch, but it's the most powerful and most famous black witch who has killed lots of white witches. So the whites don't really trust him because he's half black, and so he ends up setting off trying to contact his father, and there's a lot of action, but there's a lot of kind of abuse and people trying to use Nathan for their own to meet their own goals, I guess I should say. I really enjoyed this story. I thought it was really good. I especially enjoyed the different ways that the witches end up with their abilities. I thought that was absolutely fabulous and very intriguing. I ended up reading Half Lies. I had no idea it was coming out, but it came out in November. Read that, really enjoyed that one as well. That gives you a little more of the backstory of Gabriel and also of the feud between the black and white witches. Not how it started, but just more of a picture of how that can work in some places. So really looking forward to Half Wild, the third book. It's got that same smoky cover design with the shape of a wolf on the front. So I'm assuming that one of Nathan's gifts is the ability to transform into the shape of a wolf. And I'm very excited to get to read that story. And then on March 31st is the fourth book in a series that I have been reading for a long time. Sometimes the first book is called The Warded Man, and sometimes it's called The Painted Man. Depends what version you're reading. But the overall series is called The Demon Cycle. I don't want to tell you a whole lot about it because honestly, I started reading it so long ago, and the books are so big that I can't really remember what comes from which book, and I don't want to spoil anything for you. So, but know this, it is a very rich fantasy world, and the world building is amazing. The characters are amazing. The politics going on are amazing. For me, Peter V. Brett is right up there with Patrick Rothfuss and Brandon Sanderson as far as writing huge fantasy series. I would say that the Demon Cycle is probably not for kids, probably an adult only type of a book because of some of the themes that go on. But I cannot wait. I follow Peter V. Brett on Twitter, and it's just been so fun to hear him announce that he had finished the first draft, and then later that when he was editing, you know, how he could fix a scene with something simple that he thought was going to be really hard to fix a scene or something like that. So I've really enjoyed being on Twitter. And one day he was kind of messing with we readers and was saying, oh, while I was editing, I had to kill off, and he put redacted character, like, you know, he omitted it. And so of course a bunch of his followers started tweeting things like, oh man, Redacted was my favorite character, or how could you kill off Redacted, he was so instrumental to the plot, things like that. It was pretty funny. So it's really kept the upcoming book on my radar and probably got me even more excited than I already was for it to come out. So I will be picking that up exactly on March 31st, The Skull Throne by Peter V. Brett. So that's what I'm looking forward to in March of 2015. How about you? Anything you're looking forward to coming out then? If so, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching and happy reading.